Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth on sort of exploring a viewer narrative where they described I believe it is their stepmother, who has sort of infiltrated, broken through the family system and has married their father. And this person is sort of created like a block around their family member. And this female, they feel, is sort of without conscience. And so I want to discuss, even though she didn't really ask this question, but what do you do when you experience sort of like a relationship block? Just sort of like, I don't want to use the C word, but they talk about in relationships, that guy, whatever blacked. It's kind of like they're trying to bury you out, black you out, create a barrier between you and then how you're relating to another family member. This is really all about trying to have a leg up and edge people out who might be vying for something, whatever it is that they want. So usually, what do most people want when they're sort of marrying into the family or something of that nature, like as in this situation where they feel this person is without conscience, sort of remorseless, does not have any sort of empathy, and is blocking, their own daughter and their own son-in-law from communicating. Do you see what I'm saying? So obviously, your father and your mother are going to be one of the most significant people that you'll ever meet. And, oftentimes one of your closest relationships, your closest allies, your closest guide, your closest confidant. And then this person just kind of comes in and puts a foot in between you and them. And then always, like, for example, and this person sitting there, they always answer the phone for this person. So they've disrupted a normal line of communication, so they can't really call and talk to their father. This other individual is always picking up the phone and is like serving as a gatekeeper. All of a sudden, you've been barred out, been blocked out from trying to connect with your own family. And, how do you deal with this? How do you contend with sort of all of a sudden this break in communication, this break of heart, this break of connection, this break of a bond, just feeling like all of a sudden it has to be surrendered to this third party, this other person. This can happen oftentimes in relationships, also known as triangulation, where they're trying to pit other people against you, obviously to give them power, to give them a leg up, to give them sort of the higher authority in the relationship. And this is also known where someone who is psychopathic will, sort of select someone from the crowd and isolate them from their proper influences in their life. Create a barrier from their, the other people who could be supporters, who could provide valuable input, who could, keep a reality and sort of soundboard for them, keep them in check. But especially as people get older, this things start to transpire, and they're not as able to sort of maybe think for themselves or defend themselves. This can also be called elder abuse. So I'm not even sure what this person, but I wanted to advise you that, if you have someone who's keeping you away or trying to create a barrier between you and your family member who's maybe in their 70s or 80s or 90s, and they're not able to communicate and they're taking advantage of, the ties, that could be a factor. But, on a sort of a general global sense, because I think a lot of our viewers will understand this, is like they have somebody speaking in, another's ear to sort of create, what is known as a smear campaign, where it's like they're trying to start a rumor. You might consider it negative water cooler talk. They're sort of, drumming up tension. They're drumming up little and creating little, what did you call it back in the day when they had little, little groups, little, what am I thinking of? When they'd create little groups, to prove who's in and who's out. Just sort of their sphere of influence. But is coming to me. It begins with an S. It's eluded me for some reason. Um, but it's not good because it's an attitude and mindset of divisiveness, and it's an attitude and approach of control where they're trying to jockey the group, and it's going to come to me. And you see this often in workplaces, and I know we have a lot of viewers who are asking about how do you deal with someone who is psychopathic in the workplace. Don't worry, all these are coming. And by the way, while we're on the topic of addressing viewer input, um, if there is any bashing, any negative talk, any sort of vulgar reference to other commenters, other viewers, you're combative, and you're using just sort of this slang talk to other people and telling other people that their viewpoints are wrong, or to shut it down, or you're trying to diminish others, that will not be tolerated. And I block those people. I've blocked literally hundreds of people from the channel because of this type of issue. And I don't share that on the video. You guys don't need to know my house cleaning. But as soon as I see that, they are blocked. And so thank you. I just want you to know, the ground rules, especially, for our viewers. We have very strong commenters here with a lot of insights, a lot of wisdom, and a lot of knowledge in this very specific area. This is a sacred area, this community, and this is a community of kindness and compassion. This is a positive zone. This is a negative free zone. I don't want any of that drudgery brought in. Zero, zip, nada. If you're watching while driving the car and you're listening, awesome, but if you're having issues in your own life and you're back aching and, you're then taking that out on somebody else, it will not be tolerated. Zero. So I'm going to have you know that right away. That is an absolute no can do here on the channel. It is not welcome. And also, if you're falsifying, who you are on the channel, and I get these messages and I find out, you will also be blocked. So anyway, I did not mean this to become a house cleaning video, but anyway, we're moving on and talking a little bit more in depth about what happens, when this person comes in and then is creating this triangulation. This is a textbook manipulation technique by people who are malignant and psychopathic. I mean, it's textbook. And oftentimes it is important to be able to get through this situation with grace and ease, meaning that you don't want to be combative. You don't want to be a counterforce to this force. When someone is trying to, once again, create a negative persona for someone who is innocent, but they want to sort of block that person's input. They want to block that person's presence because, they are grounding, they have a sense of history, they have a relationship, and if they can break those ties, it gives them more access to creating a sort of, a dependency on them, and then removes them from their own input. In other words, if there's money at hand to be inherited, just sort of block that person out. So changing their will at the last moment. I mean, this is just, textbook cases of con people who, especially, as people get older and they've accumulated wealth, accumulated belongings, accumulated real estate, there's people who are on these sort of even dating websites for, in the older years, who are looking for companionship. And oftentimes some very good people get taken advantage of by these trolls, by these people who swoop in their older years and are, becoming their caregiver, but then end up disrupting very important and long-standing family relationships. And it seems cold and remorseless. So, what do you do? Well, number one, you need to look at, representation. And I'm not giving here legal advice or anything of that nature, but make sure that the lines of communication, in other words, with your father, for example, is a solution. Giving them their own cell phone with a direct contact number to you, so something that this other person does not have access to, and advising them that for your security, you're going to instruct them on how to keep it locked so that they know how to enter their own code to keep it open, and that they're managing their own usernames and passwords. It's very important that you don't allow these people to edge you out. And try to take away the leverage and control from you. This will happen. You don't want to be negligent. You don't want to be irresponsible. You don't want to be late to the game. It is heartbreaking, but you need to be able to move through and understand a little bit and watch the videos as we talk a lot about this psychopathy, especially in the female here on this video. So they sort of, and how they sort of magnetize and take control even over family systems. You wouldn't think it would be possible, but that's what they try to do. They're opportunistic. There's something usually that they want. It gives them, a sense of power to be able to control others in this way and be sort of like the new boss in town, if you will, the new boss cow. It can feel very much like, and with this understanding is that, these can be like, they're like birds of prey. They're looking for people to prey on. They are predatory in nature. So if you really feel this in your gut, pay attention to that feeling, number one, and really understand that, you aren't going to be usurped or taken advantage of, but pay attention to the gut, become centered within, become focused. Don't allow yourself to be judgmental. Don't allow yourself to get carried away with the running away with your imagination about what's going to happen. Keep very calm and centered and grounded, and make sure that you find ways of communication. Make sure it's clearly known. Pardon me, excuse me, being able to create boundaries with this family member is very important. Excuse me, but I, have something to bring up here. Excuse me, can I have a word here? Being able to be very direct is going to be very important, and non-confrontational and non-emotional, being very neutral, being very indifferent. In other words, having your carriage about you, speaking in clear and no uncertain terms, not coming from a place of weakness, but coming from a place of strength. You are not going to lose connection to your family members. And this can be very scary. You can really feel that you're alone in this fight, and that, especially when it comes to the brainwashing and gaslighting, the way that they might, whisper things in their ear, this is a new chapter of your life, and then they might plant, seeds that take, your family member only wants this, your family only wants that. So the false accusations or projections can, especially if they're not thinking clearly or they're very impressionable as people get older, and they maybe aren't thinking as clearly as they used to. They can be very vulnerable and impressionable, just like young children. And so I'm not quite sure the age of your parent, but especially if that's an issue, then make sure you get them some health professionals involved, and just say, what, I want to take my father out for a lunch. I'm going to be stopping by at noon, and, you have your own one-on-one with them. I'm going to stop by and take you over here for some, a walk. I'm going to take you shopping. Other things like that, like little outings that you can do, and just have a check-in with this family member. And if you get pushback, you need to know how to say, no, thank you, this is our quality time today. And, you don't get all defensive, and, this is what we do, and just make a proclamation as if it's a stable tradition. You've been on the scene a lot longer than this person who just stepped in, and it's okay. You can manage this. You guys both can. It can feel very intense. It can feel very strong, but love will cut through these chains. Your gentleness and your kindness will cut through. You need to kind of soften up your heart a little bit, and don't be coming out of fear, but come out of a space of confidence. When you feel this person, coming in, sort of trying to rearrange everything, if you will, rearrange the emotional climate. It can feel very disorienting. Be strong, but your conscious and your subconscious is really where you want to come from, meaning that you have the best interest at heart, and you're not just pushing them out, you're not pushing them away, you're looking to loosen up the resistance that they are trying to create, that tension. And I know we do have viewers who are asking about how do you dispel this tension that oftentimes can follow you, especially if it's in the workplace. You feel like that tension carries over and follows you into other settings. You take it home, you take it to work, you take it to your social, you take it to your upkeep of your health. But it's important that you maintain your health. And especially if someone is older, they might need psychological counseling. They might need a geriatric specialist. They might need, just to go through a regular checkup. How long has it been? So it's very important that you don't become neglectful or irresponsible of health, or, being a guide and just having some input with family members, because, really they count on you for that feedback. I really want that to be an empowering relationship for you. And remember your lessons learned, to not cave in, to not buckle down, to not fall into apathy or depression, or, feeling fear. This person might, be needed to walk away from the relationship if they're a hazard to this person. And you can determine that. But realize that this is kind of what they do. They create these little pockets and groups. What am I trying to say? Not like a sorority, but just little, the word is not coming to me, but someone will input it, where they're creating just sort of like little groups. Oh, it's going to really bother me until I find this word that I am looking for, where they're creating little cliques. That's what I'm trying to think of. They're trying to create little cliques in the family. And this creates a competition, this sort of clique making. This is a real strong tool of malignant narcissists and psychopaths to use to create a feeling of intimidation, that you're an outsider and that we're special and we're in. And so don't allow that clique formation in the family. Sure, others might get together based on interest, but it's very divisive when at the hands of a narcissist or a malignant psychopath, meaning that they're trying to create a division that they are in control of. And that this is the good group, this is the weak group, we are cool, we're this, we're that, this is where the money is, this is where it's not. So they're creating this point of contention within families, which should be blood is thicker than water. They come in like, a divider and try to put up this wall where there was none and there should be none. So, we talk about how important it is to break through that and keep your truth and own your truth, and don't be dismayed or just sort of, feeling like you're spinning out of control in the family. This can be calmed down, this can be backed down. You do sometimes need to create a boundary, create a line, and make sure that you don't get underrepresented or allow yourself to not be represented. Be able to stand up, not confront. Just in very clear terms, we have quality time together. We schedule quality time. Just make a statement. And, why is that necessary? Then, you come back with a pattern, interrupt. Did you watch the Blue Bloods? You just completely do a turnaround and stand your ground. We talk about the pattern interrupt, but that can be very important for clearing the air with these sabotaging type of individuals. This is your buddy. Peace and harmony with you here today. I hope that this video does help. Please share, please subscribe, and please join the new Peace and Harmony memberships for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Have a beautiful day.